Oh, good evening or morning tomorrow or yesterday, whichever it is. Thanks for stopping in. I cannot see who you are because I have not looked at the chat. Give me a second. What up, Bob? I was gonna invite you to join the live stream with me. Yeah, I'm hanging in there. Weird shit going on now. I was doing okay for a while. I was getting up. I was walking around behind the walker pretty well. I was getting up and down, getting around the room pretty well. And then I got a crick in my spine somewhere. I'm not sure if it's the lower spine or the neck. But this arm, fucking spasms all fucking night long like restless leg syndrome in my arm. It fucking sucks. Yeah, I cranked on the stream earlier. Hung around for like 5 minutes. Nobody showed up, so I left. So now, the leg that got toasted by the car is fine. In fact, it's better than the other leg now. I'm putting more weight on the car wreck leg than the leg that wasn't hit. So in that case, my legs are fine. Dude, my whole life is pain. Oh, back there is my Stone Cold Steve Austin knee brace. I told them to give me two so I could complete the look, but they wouldn't do it. I mean, that would have just been great. A smaller, scrawnier Stone Cold Steve Austin running around the running around the rehab center. If you want to get up on out of here, give me a hell yeah. But so now I've got my mother. She's not bright, but she is relentless. So that comes in handy. And her brother is a nephrologist and knows my medical history. So I wrangled them up to take me to the spinal center's emergency room tomorrow to get this properly diagnosed and potentially dealt with. Yeah, I try to be in high spirits, dude. It helps when you guys are around to humor me. It really does. You guys mean a lot. And so I was discussing it with her tonight to get everything straight for tomorrow. And here's the... So I was hoping over the past couple nights, I've been burning through just volumes of research papers on the internet, medical research, to see if this twitching in my arm is just a chemical imbalance. Now, chances are that's still part of it, obviously. But so I've been doing that. But now there's the potential that it's structural too. Well, here's the problem with that. Is I've gone to chiropractors and gotten my spine completely straightened out, right? Perfect curve, alignment, everything. And I can walk out of the chiropractor like a whole human being. Perfect. Blood's flowing great in every way it's supposed to. Nerves are working. Everything's perfect. I'm a brand new man. But as soon as I sit down, my spine falls right back into disarray, and I have trouble getting up after sitting down. Why is this? Well, because since I was about 5 years old, I've had various biological factors eating away at my bones, primarily my hips. So since I was 5 years old, I've had some version of an unbalanced pelvis, which led to some form of scoliosis or other in my spine while I was developing from, 5 years old to adulthood. And that was because of juvenile arthritis and the corticosteroids they gave me to fight it. But now, being on dialysis 20 years, I've had 20 years of an out-of-control parathyroid, which regulates the health of the bones through vitamin D, vitamin K, phosphorus, and calcium, and how the phosphorus and calcium are absorbed so the bones are as healthy as they can be. So I've had that out of whack for 20 years, malnourishing my bones and maintaining the deletion of my hips, which means since 5 years old, my pelvis has been out of whack in one way or another, leading to the very base of my spine where it sits, where it mounts in the pelvis in the back, being twisted and bent, and then the whole spine being out of whack. So that's been, 36, 37 years of that. Point being, if I were to get any kind of surgery on my spine to artificially put it back in place, it would just cause problems with the rest of the spine because it doesn't have a proper base to start with. So before I could ever get my spine operated on, I would need hip replacements that both level out the gait of my legs and level out my pelvis so that my spine has a level, sturdy foundation to sit on for when it's restored to its natural position. So think about that, you structural engineers. When the 28th and 29th floor are out of whack, you can do all you want to even those up, but if the foundation is cracking and the ground is shifting, you're just going to have to keep shoring up those floors because they're just going to keep shifting. So, yep, until the floor upon which my spine is leveled out, nothing can be done for my spine. Well, it can, but it's not going to be pretty or even fruitful for very long. On the other hand, because I have bone degenerative conditions in my body, I may not even be a candidate for hip replacements. And if I am, let's just say I was, and they took and it did fine. Well, now the conditions that are eating away at my bones don't have my hips to gnaw on, so they're going to go after my femurs. I mean, that's the logical process anyway. Do I seem too detached from this? Am I going about this in a far too robotic way? Is this boring you? Oh, I am just a machine now. Or as Obi-Wan Kenobi said about Anakin, he's more machine now than man. I don't know, I suppose you go through enough shit, eventually you just become a machine because they've taken it all from you. Yeah, all I have left is this pretty face. Thank God I was born with a pretty face, because it's all I got left. Oh. But yeah, I was explaining to my mother about how I almost wish I could trade this restless leg syndrome in my arm for some of the pain I had from getting hit by the car. Because at least the pain in the knee from getting hit by the car, they were either willing to put me to sleep, right, anesthesia, or juice me up on pain medication, IV pain medication, so I didn't feel anything. But none of that shit works for this restless leg syndrome in my arm. It's not painful, but it's more... It melts your brain faster, I guess is how I would say it. Oh wow, she has scoliosis too. Yeah, dude, that shit's fucked up because when your spinal column goes out of whack, it starts pinching off your spinal cord, which is the main electrical line for your body, right? The electrical energy flows through there and out from there through all the neural pathways, all the way out to the tiny little nerve endings at your skin. Depending on where the scoliosis is bent stuff and how it bent stuff, you can end up with conditions like, um, underperforming pancreas, underperforming liver, heart problems, lung problems, just because a certain part of your spine is pinched off. And so, like I said to my mother on the phone, I said, because I wanted to make sure she was taking this shit seriously. It's like, I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's getting worse, and I don't want to become paralyzed. Now, does the marijuana, I see you say it helps with pain. Does it help with, like, how do I say that? Like the situation I'm going through right here, where the nerve just keeps firing. It doesn't hurt, but it drives you crazy. I mean, I would imagine. I don't know. I'm not a connoisseur of the ganja, and I've never taken an interest in researching it too much. Though I was talking to Jim earlier on the phone. Yeah, I would think it would too. I was talking to Jim on the phone earlier, and I brought up something from my childhood. Something that when I saw it, there's a few things, right, from childhood that just stick with you in such a deep and profound way that well into your later years they're important to you. Well, this was one of them, because at that time I'd already by 3 years old been through half a dozen surgeries. By three and a half started getting arthritis. Dealt with that for 10 years. Lots of hospital time, lots of pain. But G.I. Joe was a big part of my childhood. And I remember watching the full-length animated movie, which was epic in and of itself. But there was a scene where a couple G.I. Joes raided the Cobra Fortress, right? And one of them got captured while using Cobra's communications to call for backup. And the other guys continued on with the mission and planted bombs throughout the base. No, I don't do drugs. The drugs like me. And I don't love them back. But right, so this cartoon, the one good guy who is on the comm system, he gets captured. And he's being forcibly held before the head bad guy, who's smacking him around and interrogating him, right? The other guys are setting all the bombs throughout the place, carrying on the mission. And so the good guy's on his knees, getting the shit smacked out of him and interrogated. And the bad guy looks at him and he goes, "You can't hold out forever." And the good guy just picks his head up in exhaustion and says with heavy breath, he goes, "You're right. I've just got to hold out for 5 more minutes." And it shows the timer on the bomb counting down. And at like 7 years old, that meant everything to me. That was like greater than anything before and anything since. And subconsciously, that image, that phrase got me through those nights where my joints swelled up so huge That the pain just was unbelievable. And even if I wasn't consciously thinking it, somewhere in there was, I don't have to last forever. I just have to outlast the pain. And so my whole life, that line of, you can't hold out forever, and it's like, I don't have to. I just have to last long enough. It has, like I said, whether consciously or unconsciously, gotten me through so much in my life. Yo, Joe. So how's Bob doing? Yeah, I tried a couple drugs when I was in high school. The experience I enjoyed the most, though, was acid. I mean, it's not something I do on the regular because then that burns out your brain really quickly and you end up with serious psychiatric issues for the rest of your life. Because your brain then it can't produce a lot of different chemicals that it needs to. So, yeah, I only did acid once and that was an amazing experience. But, I mean, I'd sip a beer just for the social dynamic of it. Or, do a hit here and there off a blunt because of the social dynamic of it. But I never ever liked alcohol, marijuana, or any other downer. Did cocaine once. That was fantastic. But that was when I went out to Colorado and visited a cousin. That's also why I drink a shit ton of Red Bull and Monster because I don't have the money to afford a Coke habit. Oh, and that's another argument I've made to some people. And no offense to you if this, runs over your toes a little bit. I don't know. I take that you maybe do the ganja a little bit, but I people ask me why I don't smoke pot, and it's like, be an adult, do some cocaine so you can get. Okay, it's time to grow up and do cocaine so you can get shit done like an adult. All right, let's get caught up. Nowadays, CBD oil has lots of medical benefits. That's what I've heard. Again, I haven't taken the time to look into it. Maybe I should. Knowing is half the battle. That's right, dude. Those GI Joe PSAs at the end of every episode. Those were great. They're great now, but from a different perspective. Oh yeah, that pot isn't grass like it was years ago. That shit just becomes more weapons grade every year. The mushrooms you partake of are legal. That's pretty cool. So how do the are the mushrooms more of a like a psychiatric brain chemical thing, or is it for pain management? Because I've heard like the psilocybin levels out like people that claim to be schizophrenic, or it like brings people down that are a little too manic, or brings them up if they're a little too depressed. I've heard lots of things about how psilocybin changes the brain chemistry. I will say this. I had, what was it, back when I was like 20, I had two full blown out of body experiences. No drugs needed. Just kind of doing my thing, slipped into a Zen state and left my body. And after the second one, After I came back from the second one, I realized as fully and completely as I ever would just how unfulfilling this life would be. That what I had experienced in leaving my body that time, I realized there was nothing I could achieve or experience in this corporeal form would ever amount to what I had experienced having gone outside my body at that time. And at that point, I just kind of, I noticed a very real disconnect from the motivation for carnal pursuits had been activated in me. It was really kind of interesting. Fuck, I need to shave my head again. Seriously, I need to just get electrolysis and get all the fucking hair taken off my head, except for the Stone Cold Steve Austin gimmick here. Keep this and the eyebrows and get rid of everything else on my head. Then I'd never have to. Then I'd never have to get another haircut. And wouldn't have to spend all that money on shampoo. Right, wouldn't have to worry about shaving or having stinky, grungy hair. Just wipe my head down every day with a wet cloth and go. Maybe put a little lotion or something on it to make it smell nice. All right, let me get caught up on what you're saying here. Okay, I think I'd asked about mushrooms, and you said depends on how you take it. You'd like it for the body high, but if you take more, you'll get the visionary high that you get from LSD. Oh yeah, yep. And then you said mushrooms are being used for anxiety and depression and making people way better with those issues. Once they take it, they don't have those issues anymore. Okay, so yeah, it sounds like we've come across the same kind of information on the shrooms. Oddly enough, the most meaningful people in my life when I was in high school. No, don't get me wrong, I had some close seconds to these ones, right? But these ones, just the tip top of who I found important at the time. One was a cousin, one was a girl I knew, and I got on with them the best, and it turns out they were both schizophrenic. Go figure. I don't know, maybe I just lived such a fucked up childhood that I needed a crazy person in my life to talk to that wouldn't judge me. Go figure. Though I did figure early on in life, I suppose, not too early on, I would have been in high school at the time, that because of everything I went through in my childhood and what I was going to go through in my future adulthood, that if I were ever to marry a woman, she would have to be a nurse or a sex worker to be able to cope with my physical abnormalities and be able to keep them under wraps. Any woman that did anything other than that my body would melt their brain at some point, and then they'd tell everybody they knew and their dogs, and that would just fuck up my life. So it's like, yep, If I ever planned on having a woman in my life, like intimately, she'd have to be a nurse or a sex worker so I didn't freak her out. With all the weird shit I would be going through. But then, I went out and sowed my wild oats a few times and figured out, you know what? They just ain't worth it. There ain't enough here for me to hold on to. The sex ain't that great. I can't emotionally attach to anybody. And they're at that point, if you can't emotionally attach to another human being, they just automatically become a liability. It's sad to say, but look within yourself, and you may find that to be a very harsh but honest truth. I mean, mind you, we need each other for everything, right? I don't have enough time in the day to make my own shoes, grow my own food, take care of my own animals to turn into meat, build my own house, program my own entertainment, right? You can't do everything yourself. You need other human beings. So there's that kind of commercial business relationship we have with others. But we all do that, right? To some extent. And that's the thing about Gen X and on down is we've been taught directly and indirectly our whole lives that to go it on our own, that we don't need anybody. But that's the thing, is we forgot to differentiate that needing people and needing people are two different things. We don't want to have close personal relationships because we all have damage. Okay? That's what we mean by going alone, is not having the emotional intimacy. Okay? But the fact of the matter is we can't go it alone. When's the last time you, like I said, made your own shoes, made your own tires for your car, pumped your own oil and refined the gas and put it in the car, that you built all the parts from scratch? You didn't. You still need people. And I wish Gen X and on down would acclimate to that reality, that it's understood that we're all afraid of emotional intimacy. And that's the going it on our own that we seek. So stop, being so hard on everybody else around you, because you don't have to be emotionally intimate with them. You can be a totally different person for each cashier at the grocery store. Okay? But understand you functionally need them. You don't have to be emotionally close to them, but understand you still need them. Because you cannot do it all yourself. You can be an emotional hermit all you want, go for it. But a physical, functional hermit is impossible. So stop trying to be such a fucking hard ass all the time. For those of you that may listen to this. When the plumber comes to your door, he's not trying to dick you over. He's just trying to make a buck. When the checkout line girl is having a bad day and fucking things up, it's a bad day. She's not doing it maliciously. I figured out years ago, when I was about 20, I remember telling that girl that was in my life that I may go the rest of my life where the closest relationship I ever have is like between Batman and Alfred. Right? And I kind of have that with the dialysis center workers, because I've been at that dialysis center for 12 years. And some of those people have taken care of me all 12 years. But it's a strictly business relationship. Or, I'm sorry, at this point, because we see each other so often and have for so long, it's like 95% professional, 5% personal. And that's right about the range of emotional intimacy I can handle, as far as like the interpersonal relationships with other people. And that's probably how I'm going to be the rest of my life. The closest relationship I'll ever have is, the person who gets my coffee every morning, morning after morning after morning. I don't know anything about their family. I don't know what their family looks like. I don't know how many people are in their family, but they know what coffee I like, and we only know what we tell each other. Otherwise, we don't know anything about each other at all, and we could both be telling each other egregious lies about our lives, and we don't know, and that's okay because we don't want to know. We don't want to cross that boundary. All right, let's catch up on the gimmick here. We're MGTOWs. We understand that. Straight up, dude. And so, yeah, the right arm there used to have an augmented vein that looked like two to three golf balls coming out of my arm. It's where they punched the needles into the vein to give me dialysis treatment. It was pretty nasty looking. And it got to the point, right, where some people, I just, it got to where it was just really unsightly. And even people who'd known me for years were like complaining about it. And so it was funny, right? Because they'd ask me, they're like, "Can you like put that under the table or something?" It's weirding me out. Or a random person would come up and ask, like, "Oh my God, what happened to your arm? Are you okay?" But anyway, right? People complain about having to see it, and it was creeping them out. And I'm like, "You think that's bad? You can walk away and not have to think about it again. It follows me everywhere. Everywhere I go, there it is. Everywhere I go, there it is. Follows me everywhere." Oh, but yeah, and a, this is not a sanctioned comparison or competition, but as per my personal limits allotted for my experiences in this life, I've been through enough. Let me rephrase that. I've had enough medical science put through me. No, I've not been through medical science. Medical science has been through me. That, as I said an hour ago almost, oh no, it just feels like an hour. I reached a point at a very young age that I just kind of lost track of what it was to be human and started conceding to being a machine. And as more and more science was run through me, the more I relinquished my humanity for the sake of becoming a robot that didn't have to experience certain levels of suffering anymore. And you know what? At this point, if I could go back to being more human, I don't think I'd want to. Not because I'm afraid of it. It's just like I'm I'm good. I'm comfortable with what I have. Just don't change anything. Talked to Jim about that the other night too, about how when you're younger, when you're younger, you want to go out into the world and conquer it and prove yourself, and you prove your independence from your parental units, your guardians and such, by tearing things down and rebuilding them to prove that you can handle that responsibility, to prove your value to the other gender so that you can procure mates to produce offspring. But as you get older, after you've built your system and everything, you get to a point you're like, okay, I've gotten to where I need to be. This is the top of my hill. All right, just keep everything the way it is. I worked hard to get it this way. Don't change it, because I don't want to have to rebuild it. But then the next generation of the youth who want to tear everything down and rebuild it in their image come along, and you just bemoan for the next couple decades. Not the rest of your life, just maybe 2 decades, that you don't want things to change, but they keep changing. And then you eventually give in to the fact that things always change, and just let the young shits do their thing. And if they want things to change, let them take care of you then. What up, Primo Living? How you doing, dude? Thanks for stopping by. Hey, Frog, what you doing, man? Oh, yeah, I was going to talk to you about that. You were the one that mentioned yeah, you had mentioned that in the comments section. For Scientology, that's some fucked up shit, dude. You and I need to schedule a live stream. I'll pull you in. You'll be my co-host, and you and I can talk about it. Talk about our experiences, even if no one else is watching. Well, I don't know what the magic button was. I'm just thankful the twitching in my arm has stopped now. Yay. It was driving me nuts. Oh, wait, no, that's a steering wheel on your codpiece. Ha ha ha. And now, time for another joke. Me and my dad were joyriding. He's almost 40 years older than me, so that was a good time. He got me out of the rehab center for a couple hours today, and we just rode around in the car for a couple hours. Hung out together. That was fucking great. And we were sitting at the street light, right? I said, "Hey, Pops, check out the name of the street." He looks. The street name was Chestnut, right? Chestnut Street. So I go, "Hey, Dad, you know how you make chestnuts, right? You make chestnuts by titty fucking." So I got a hearty chuckle out of the old man. That was great. Then when we went and stopped and got ourselves a beverage, we parked in the shade and shared a cigar. Thanks, Primo. All right, let me get caught up. Frog says they do that a lot They do that to a lot of kids now. Even more. Luckily, back then, they didn't chop people's genitals off. Yep. Yeah, that is some serious devil worship between abortion and sexually mutilating children. I mean, how much more child sacrifice can you deliver? Seriously. Like, how is that not right up there with the Aztecs, right? I mean, at least the Aztecs killed the children. They didn't mutilate them and make sure they live. Which has been an argument I've made for 25, almost 30 years now. And just consider this notion, okay? And maybe I'm a bit biased because of what I've experienced, but in simple terms, who's more evil? A surgeon or a serial killer? Think about it for a second. Do 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 do. All right, and the answer is a surgeon will unnaturally mutilate and reconfigure your body in unnatural and horrific, if not debilitating ways. And whether they do it right or not, they make sure you live at all costs. Meaning whatever happens to you and how abnormal your body turns out, how uncomfortable your body is, or how unusable it is after what they've done, you have to continue to live with it. Serial killers, certainly they torture their prey for a couple days, but then they mercifully end their life. The medical industrial complex will mutilate and torture you for 80 years and keep you alive against your will. Serial killers are much more merciful than doctors, surgeons, and the medical industrial complex, in my eyes. And know this, and you probably do already if you're MGTOW. Child cancer research. Do you know what that means? It doesn't mean random children that get cancer are taken there where they research how to treat childhood cancer. It means children who purposefully develop cancer through vaccination are used as guinea pigs to research cancer treatment for the sake of other people. Because the younger the biological entity is when you research it, do research on it, the cleaner and more repeatable the results are. The older the biological entity, the more damage and contamination, and so it's hard to get clean results and clean data out of a mass of, say, 40-year-olds than it is 4-year-olds. And so children are horrendously important to pharmaceutical and technological medical research. So whenever you see child medical research, know that it's not research to help children. It's using children as research specimens to further medical science for the sake of the medical industrial complex. Those children are guinea pigs and they'll never be right, biologically or psychologically. I know, I was one of them, and every time I went to those specialists, I was there with a room full of other children and their parents. And I wonder sometimes, because I know what it did to me to go through that. I wonder how many of them have serious psychiatric issues? How many of them are addicts? How many of them are alcoholics? How many of them blew their brains out? How many of them died of an overdose in the street? How many of them turned out okay? How many of them got what I wanted, just a quiet office job as a CPA, flying solo for their life, for the extent of their lifetime, and just doing their thing, because I know not all of them went totally to shit. Some of them came out better than others, but all those children that I saw when I was going through what I was going through, I wonder, 35 years later now, where they are and how that changed their trajectory in life. Too bad we didn't have Facebook back then, huh? I guess I should have been more into collecting pen pals. But when you're 8 years old, you really don't have the development, the social development in your brain to have a conversation about, hey Billy, how's your colon doing? Da 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 da. Hey, Jason, how's your heart holding up? Like when you're 8 years old, you don't even know how to broach those conversations because you don't even think about them. And but yeah, like I said, I think back to all those children that were in the same places as me. Maybe not for the same reasons, but I wasn't the only child being processed. And so, how'd the other ones turn out? All right, let's catch up on the chat. Hang on. Let's see. Definitely peak psychopathy. Yep. Fucking with children. All right. Big Pharma is still pissed about psilocybin. Let's see. Or no, not psilocybin, about penicillin. Oh, yeah. Let's see, what do we got now? Frog says, now they do it all under the guise of behavioral health. That is a fantastic topic, Frog. That shit is terrifying. Remind me later to come back to that. They want the fetus for genetic science. You're goddamn right they do. That's what they really do. They use it to benefit their own personal research. Well, I always said if I were like a Tony Stark or a Lex Luthor, I'd take whores off the street, knock them up, and harvest their fetuses for my own purposes. But that's just me. I mean, I'd pay them well because I'd have Tony Stark money, but all right, let's see. Their own research. All right, Frog says, a friend younger than me just escaped that system recently. I'm assuming you mean the psychiatric system? Wow, dude. I'm glad they got the hell out of there. One way or the other. All right, then Frog says he's doing way better. He can actually talk again with all the without all the psych meds they forced down him. Forced him to take. He's not violent, never once. They're evil. He was trapped in Seattle. Yeah, I believe it. How about all the people who got injured and given pain pills to get them hooked for life? Oh, yeah, that was quite a trip, wasn't it? That's another great topic. Isn't it intriguing how after we went to Afghanistan, we had an explosion of pain medication in the United States. Gee, you don't suppose that's because when we went to Afghanistan, we took control of the poppy fields and had more than enough poppies to just start handing out pain medication like candy. Nah, couldn't be. I'm just a conspiracy nut. No, I'm a cashew. Not a conspiracy nut, a cashew. Get it straight. All right, let's see. Where'd I leave off? Primo says, I broke my foot in 5 places at work in 2008. They gave me Oxy for 12 weeks. 3 days in, 3 days in a row, and you're going through withdrawals. It was bad. Oh yeah, that pain medication ain't anything to fuck with. And Frog says take kratom. It's non-addictive but works like pain meds. Oh cool. I've seen kratom advertised at a bunch of smoke shops here, but never looked into what it was. God damn. Between you and Bob, I'm gonna have to look up some more of the some stuff, man. Okay, and then Frog says, yeah, he was in the Seattle psych system. They were forcing him to take meds, injections, an entire month of Thorazine in one shot. Holy shit, dude. That sounds like fucking zombie juice at that point. Lulz, billions of oxys from all the poppy fields. Then they pretend like they don't know what's going on. Exactly. Oops, yeah, the poppy fairy just showed up with all these pain meds, so we thought we'd start handing them out. And Frog says, I had a script of Vicodins once for a broken wrist. And I had a withdrawal from that shiz. Horrible. Lulz, yep. Alright. Frog says, kratom, best place to buy is Gold Monk so far I found. It's a website and it's good quality. Alright. And Bob says he's texting back and forth with someone. Hey, that's alright, Bob. If you can multitask like that, go for it. I remember in 98 when I had AOL, right, with the dial-up. The first thing I thought about it was 10 years earlier, my sisters wanted their own phone line because, they're girls. They need to talk constantly. But when we got the internet, I needed my own phone line so I could be on the internet 24/7. And I'd be running 5 to 7 instant message conversations simultaneously and actually have the mental capacity to keep up with all of them and not get them mixed up. Can't imagine doing that now. I can barely hold a conversation with one person for very long because it's I've gotten to the point where I push so much shit out of my brain because yep, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And Primo is throwing a thank you to the frog. Right on. But yeah, man, this was cool that you guys all stopped by and y'all have brought up some really interesting topics to talk about. Thank God, because I wasn't going to be able to. I didn't bring a list of topics. And if I would have, it probably would have been shit I already talked about. So, you know, whatever. Though I do find it intriguing for those of you that weren't here when I said it before. Check this out. When I got hit by the car, it fucking fractured my knee and my tibia in a couple places. So, like, the pain was fucking blinding, right? So, as soon as we got into the emergency room, the doctor was like, hey, man, how about we put you under? I'm like, do it. So, I was out for like 24 hours, right? And then for like that first month, I was completely bedridden. And they had me juiced up on IV morphine so I wouldn't feel the pain, right? Because when that shit wore off, it just like, it was something magnificent, right? So after a month of being in the hospital, they moved me across the street to the rehab center. And they're just giving me oral pain medication. A week into being in the rehab center, I'm putting a half to 2/3 of my body weight on the knee and tibia that were all fucked up. And I'm getting around okay. And I started dialing back the pain meds. By week 4, the orthopedics doctor tells me, okay, I'll verify that you can put weight on this leg. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I already been walking on it. I'm good. Right? So by like 5 weeks in, I'm walking on my busted up leg and not taking pain medication. But now, because of mismanagement of medications and not handling my physiology properly on a biochemical level and laying in these shitty beds, my knee has been fine for weeks. But just after that first 5 weeks being bedridden, it threw my spine out of place in a couple different places. And so for the last month and a half, numbness and weakness has continued to get worse and worse in my feet, hands, arms, and legs. My knee that got busted by the car is fine. But if I sit down for 5 minutes, I can't stand up. Because my spine's all fucked up from laying in a hospital bed and being malnourished. Fantastic. I tried to sue the girl that hit me with the car, sue the hospital for malnourishment and spinal deformation. Fantastic. All right, let's check the chat. Primo does gaming streaming. I've seen clips of Red Dead Redemption. I'll have to go check out your last stream because that looks like a hell of a cool game. And the frog says he broke his finger but won't go to the doctor. You know what? I wouldn't either. I don't blame you. Right? Walk it off, pussy. Walk it off, rub some dirt in it. What are the other ones? Mommy, why do I keep running in circles? Shut up or I'll nail your other foot to the floor. Well, hello, Sean St. George. Good to see you. Say hello to my little friend. Right? Say hello to my little friend. No, that's tall man. Yes, but compared to me, he's very little. Oh shit, the coffee shop I used to go to all the time in the bookstore. I'd go in there, get my morning cup of coffee, and hang out there for a couple hours during the day. The guy that managed the coffee shop was named Joe. So that made for plenty of tawdry humor at his expense. Like he, like one of the girls that was a regular. If we ended up standing in line together, she'd tell the new staff member, they're like, "And what can I get for you today?" And she'd look over at the manager, and then look at the new employee and go, "I'd like a nice tall cup of." And look at the manager and go, "Joe," and we'd all have a good laugh because the manager's name was Joe, and she wanted a cup of Joe. And then one of the other employees was like, "So is that one Joe, two cups?" Right? In reference to two girls, one cup. But COVID took out that bookstore, so, you know, or the economic consequences of the COVID lockdowns, if you will. Which I think they should have stretched out further to collapse more of the unnecessary aspects of the the commercial side of our civilization. We don't need hair salons. We don't need nail salons. Okay. God forbid we don't need a McDonald's every mile and a half. Okay. At the very least, take out 20% of the fast food joints and downsize the rest by half so they're just drive-through only. Hear me out. Convert the malls into living spaces. What else? We don't need all these fucking craft stores. Okay. Keep the major hardware stores and the less major hardware stores. Easily 50% of the non-fast food restaurants could go. My point is this. 70 to 80% of non-essential jobs are held by women. Okay? So if you collapsed 50% of the non-essential economy, that would put 50% of working women back in the home. Okay? What it would also do is it would take an extraordinary amount of burden off the local electrical grid, wherever you are. Now, why is this important? Because if they plan on having as many electric cars on the road by 2030 as they say they do, they're going to need to get that electricity from somewhere. And they can't just pull it out of thin air. It means they have to take it from someone else. So, if you collapse systematically 50% of the non-essential service economy, you free up an extraordinary amount of the electrical grid, which can then be used to power the oncoming fleet of electrical vehicles. Because in the long run, that's cheaper and more raw material efficient than completely overhauling the entire national electric grid city by city. So, I mean, that's what I was looking at. So, why not? Let the women have their little neighborhood powwows where they all get together, once a week and fucking share recipes and do each other's nails and hair. We don't need nail salons and hair salons everywhere. Okay? We don't need coffee shops everywhere either. We just need women in the home to make us our coffee before we leave. We don't need all those restaurants, and if you knock out all those segments of the economy and the women are at home, they're going to need something to do. So, between doing each other's nails and each other's hair and cooking and all that, it's stuff they'd be doing if they were employed, but they're not employed, so they're going to do it in the home. But again, yeah, we're going to have to go back to like a 1950s kind of, or even, maybe not even that far back. 1970s, 80s, commercial building layout, right? Where there aren't so many businesses and brick and mortar buildings and unnecessary shit, and more women in the home. If we're going to supply a couple, what is it? What do they say? 150 to 200 million electric vehicles with enough juice to run as often as they need to. But I'm just spitballing here. I don't have all the actual data to confirm that, so I'm just spitballing. And forgive me, I'm just catching up on the chat here. Yeah, those EV batteries seem to be entirely unstable. Like, I learned the hard way when I was getting my van jumped. The person who was giving me a jump had an EV, and it sent a oh, what did it do? I'm not even sure what the actual what it actually did, but to make it happen, but it set their battery on fire when they tried to jump mine because the batteries are configured so differently. But yeah, EV battery fires are quite regular from what I can tell in the news. They seem to be rather unstable or otherwise, or the people handling them in some cases, like me trying to get a jump, were ignorant to how to handle them. But yeah, the electric vehicle thing seems to be a seems to be something that they're trying hard for. They're really trying, and they don't want to let go of it. But I think at this point, it's a fad being kept artificially alive by the life support called government incentive. It's like getting a tax break to buy a Rubik's Cube. It's hip, it's trendy, it's the new MTV, but it's not going as well as they'd like. All right, Bob, I will mod up some more people just for you. What's up, Dak? How you doing, man? But I think I'm going to have to go because, like, the battery's getting low now. So, like, 5 more minutes, and then I will dismiss myself from the stream. Oh, I'm gonna have to go hunt down some still images as the video for my streams. Cause trying to hold this steady, it's just making me a little nauseous as it's the micro bobbing while I'm trying to read the chat. Let alone you guys having the screen constantly moving as well. Probably not too fun after a while. Though thank you. You guys allowed me to laugh a little bit, crack some jokes, have some fun, take my mind off reality for a little while. I'm not gonna say it was like over the top, raucous, and spectacular, but it was good. It was good fun. Thank you guys. All right, guys. Let's see. All right, we are gone.